Welcome to NFL News Update, where touchdowns meet headlines. Stay in the game with the freshest NFL updates. This is your quick dive into football fervor.
Eagles WR Paris Campbell. I think Saquon Barkley will show people why he's the best RB in the NFL. A lesser heralded steal from the Giants, new Eagles wide receiver Paris Campbell foresees big things for Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia. After watching Barkley for a season with New York, Campbell believes the two-time Pro Bowler can use Philly's stouter offensive line to catapult himself to the very top of the running back rankings in 2024. I think he's going to show people why he's the best running back in the league, Campbell said Saturday, per the Philadelphia Inquirer's Olivia Rayner. I know there's a bunch of debate between him and Christian McCaffrey. And don't get me wrong, Christian McCaffrey's by far one of the best running backs in the league. But being able to see Saquon up close and personal, being in the same locker room, on the same team, man, he's a different guy when he's on that field, honestly. And running behind that offensive line that we have, I think it's going to be pretty scary for defenses. You pair that with Jalen Hurts and the things he can do with his feet, just as far as extending plays, getting outside the pocket, I'm sure there will be some type of read option game that we go on and RPO stuff that'll happen. So just the possibilities of it are endless. Barkley has experienced an up and down 6 years with Big Blue, storming onto the NFL scene to win AP Rookie of the Year and produce 3,469 total yards and 23 touchdowns in his first 2 seasons. An ACL tear erased most of his 2020 season, which along with an ankle injury sapped his effectiveness coming back in 2021, but he set a new career high with 1,312 rushing yards for the Giants in 2022 during a surprise run to the postseason. Dealing with the franchise tag last offseason and eventually negotiating a different one-year deal around it preceded a lackluster 6-11 season for the Giants and Barkley, who finished with 1,242 scrimmage yards and 10 TDs on 288 touches as New York's only major threat offensively. McCaffrey, 3 times a Pro Bowler and twice an All-Pro, plus the 2023 Offensive Player of the Year, currently deserves the title of RB1 in the NFL. He led the league in rushing yards, 1,459, yards from scrimmage, 2,023, and total TDs, 21. Last season, he's certainly outdone Barkley to this point in their careers, but he at one time was also dealing with peaks and valleys due to injuries and an otherwise ineffective offense with the Panthers before refinding his footing with the San Francisco 49ers. Perhaps Barkley, too, will discover yet another gear given a fresh start. As for Campbell, he's optimistic that a separate reunion will help him forget a bad year with the Giants that was never a match. After breaking out in his 4th year with the Colts to post career highs with 63 catches, 623 receiving yards, and 3 scores, Campbell caught just 20 passes for 104 yards in New York. He was blanked from the end zone, and he was scratched for the final month of games despite being healthy. By joining the Eagles on a one-year pact, he will again play under Nick Sirianni, who served as Campbell's offensive coordinator in Indianapolis during the Whiteout's first 2 years in the NFL. He knows how to utilize me as a player, Campbell said of Sirianni. He knows what my skills are. Given the familiarity, Campbell is primed to fight for targets in the wide receiver room behind A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, and with his speed could provide a nice complement to both. Being able to go in and really carve out a role for myself, getting a fair shake and just kind of going from there. I'll take my chances any day of the week, he said. I'm confident in the player that I am. Should Campbell find his niche to boost the WR course and Barkley surpass any RBs who might sit above him in the consensus ranks, Philadelphia could very well rebound from the collapse it endured in 2023. Saints quarterback Derek Carr cannot wait to play old teammate Max Crosby, Raiders. We don't yet know the when, but we know it's happening. After 9 seasons with the Raiders and another in New Orleans in the wake of being cast off by Las Vegas, Derek Carr will face the team that drafted him for the first time in 2024. I am looking forward to it. I cannot wait, Carr said Friday, specifically in regard to playing his former Raiders teammate, Max Crosby, while answering fan questions on social media. A second-round pick by the Raiders in 2014, Carr is the franchise's all-time leader with 222 passing yards, and 217 touchdowns. He twice led the team to the playoffs during his 9-year tenure, and he represented the club in 4 Pro Bowls, the last of which awkwardly came during his final season in Las Vegas following an end-of-season benching. Carr sat out his last 2 regular season games as a Raider, then caught on with the Saints following his release. His first campaign with New Orleans was an uneven one. He struggled with consistency and fell short of the playoffs once again, but he did cut his interceptions down to 8 from 14 in each of the previous 2 years, and his 25 passing touchdowns were his second most since 2017. Whenever he takes on the Raiders this season, it'll involve a slightly smaller degree of revenge than if he had seen his former team early on in 2023. After former general manager Dave Ziegler and former head coach Josh McDaniels gave up on Carr, their reign together in Las Vegas lasted only until Halloween night of the following season. The Raiders fired both following a 3-5 start. With a new staff in place, Carr doesn't necessarily need to prove any coaches on the opposite sideline they're wrong. However, there will still be familiar faces on the field, such as his good friend Devante Adams or Crosby, who finally gets to apply his petrifying pass-rushing prowess against Carr in a real game after 4 years spent respecting the QB's red jersey in practice. Carr's preliminary strategy for dealing with Crosby is, in a word, unwise. Hopefully I'm going to try and start a fight with him and punch him, and then have the ref only see him throw his punch back. Carr said, clearly joking, "That's my goal." Such an exchange between Carr and Crosby would unlikely live up to such storied bouts as Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier. It'd presumably fall more in line with Zach Galifianakis Allen meeting Mike Tyson in The Hangover. Titan CB L'Jarius Sneed, excited to learn from Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, "I've never had 2 elite duoers like them." L'Jarius Sneed comes to Tennessee looking to help a defense on the rise, but he's also expecting some improvement of his own thanks to the Titans' playmakers on the other side. Following his trade from Kansas City, Sneed now has 2 big-name wide receivers in DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley to line up against every practice, an aspect he believes will add yet another layer to his game. To get out there and work with them elite wide receivers, I never had 2 elite guys like them, going up against them every day, Sneed said this week on Sirius NFL Radio. "I had great players, but them 2 guys, household names, they stick out. I can't wait to get to work with those guys. I know they're gonna make me better in practice, and I can't wait to pick both of their brains on how to get better. What they see, what my weakness is from their eyes and not from other guys I've been playing with for 4 years. I want new guys looking from the outside in." The Chiefs obviously made do after moving on from Tyreek Hill following 2021, finishing both seasons since with a Super Bowl victory, but Kansas City hasn't employed a true no-1 WR in either year. With the team's recent approach of piecemealing a corpse greater than the sum of its parts, Sneed hasn't squared off on the boundary against a daily wideout duo comparable to the one he'll see in Tennessee. The ageless Hopkins has 928 career receptions with 12,355 receiving yards, 78 touchdowns, and 3 All-Pro nods. He's coming off his first season as a Titan, one which netted him the 7th 1,000-yard receiving campaign of his 11-year career. Ridley, who joined Sneed as a Titans newcomer, is also fresh off a 1,000-yard receiving season, and he passed that threshold despite his 2023 with the Jacksonville Jaguars being roundly considered underwhelming. Sneed is set to swap between covering the 2 in practice sessions with cornerback Chidobe Awuzie, yet another offseason addition. Those matchups are certain to deliver the iron sharpens iron headlines that so often litter the long march to the regular season. Such storylines, after all the moves made by general manager Ron Carthon and new head coach Brian Callahan, must ultimately lead to tangible results. Tennessee just finished 27th in points scored and 16th in points allowed during its 2nd consecutive losing season, a sudden drought on the heels of 4 playoff trips in the 5 years before that. The hill back to contention appears steep to climb, especially with the rest of the AFC South likewise tooling up to chase the Houston Texans, who have perhaps improved the most of anyone in the division on top of capturing it in 2023. After winning 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs, though, Sneed is ready for the challenge that comes with new beginnings. It'll start with those new battles in practice, and, aided by a fresh start, hopefully continue with his evolution on display in the games to come. Once I realized where I was headed to, I was excited, he said. It's a new culture, and that's something I love is change. I love growing. Whatever aspect that is in life, I love change and I love to grow.